Hello divas, dudes, and dolls, I'm Caricature, and welcome back to my chic, sleek, and c'est magnifique little review show, Liss Sleigh, where we go over each and every one of the main stage runway looks of Drag Race Belgique Season 2. This week's runway, I was over the moon about. It's an Art Nouveau theme. So I'm particularly excited for this runway because I love Art Nouveau as an aesthetic. I love the influence that it wound up having over basically every form of art at the time through the late 1800s and early 1900s, especially in architecture and furniture design. And that's really where my love for Art Nouveau is at. So I was very excited to see what everybody was going to do for these runways. So for anyone who's new to the channel, when we go over the looks here, if I think that a look is just fine, middle of the road, it gets the job done, we give it an okay. If I love a look, we give it a slay, and if I don't, we give it an A. And that's all in efforts to find my slay of the day, my favorite look of the week, which will go into a post-crowning ranking video to determine my slay of the season, which I will then turn into an illustration. Whether that's traditional or digital is undecided, but you can catch all of that over on my socials. But you can see that illustration firsthand upon release, whenever that happens, over on my Instagram and other social media. But let's get started, shall we? First up this week, we have Alvita. I loved this so much. The draping on the red fabric, the maroon in particular, felt so Art Nouveau. It's just that really particular style of drape. On top of that, Art Nouveau as a movement is really big on organic shapes and lines and nature themes. So this, to me, it looks like she was quite literally just peeled out of an Art Nouveau window and slapped onto the runway. This is phenomenal. I love all of the line work through this. The hair is not particularly my favorite. I think she could have done something a little different with that. But I love this corset. I love how the filigree on the corset comes into the headpiece and the lantern. It all works really well together color palette wise. I will say, I think it could have been done a little differently. I love that it's a skirt boot situation. It's a really cool structure the way it's made. I think it looks really good. I love the tassels on the gloves. It really feels like an Art Nouveau piece, but it also at the same time feels quite edgy, which is very much the vibe I've gotten from Alvita about her drag so far. She's got this sort of punky element to it aesthetically that I think works really well here. For me, this is a slay. Up next is Madame Yoko. I loved the peacock that turned into a headpiece. I thought that was really cool. I like this dress on its own. I think it's a really gorgeous garment, and it is miles ahead of anything else that she has ever worn on this runway. This is her best look by far. I didn't like the hair. I didn't like the particular color of blue that she has mixed in with the blonde. That's my biggest gripe about that. The blue of the peacock with the blue in the hair don't really go together all of that well, but I love this green and gold color combo of the dress. It's really, really nice. However, for me, I do agree with the criticism that this gown itself is not really Art Nouveau. It just feels like a different era. Art Nouveau in terms of silhouette is a lot more straight. It's a lot more streamlined. It's more drapey. And this is a little too structured. The filigree elements on the gown that you see, especially along the waist, that feels very Art Nouveau. But the really stiff structure of the skirt, for me, in terms of the theme, it's a bit of a miss. But this is by far the best she's ever looked. I'm still going to give her a slay because the look is strong in general, and I enjoy it, even if it is a stretch for Art Nouveau. Up next is Star. Now, unlike Madame Yoko, this look does feel very Art Nouveau in terms of the garment, the structure, the silhouette. The general style of this dress is a very Art Nouveau style. The embroidery on the sleeves is gorgeous, but it's such a small detail that I think it gets lost in the look. On top of that, when you have a look that has the sleeve detail and you pair it with this really, really large statement hair that I don't really think reads as Art Nouveau, that's a bit of a miss for me. I think had the dress hit the floor and not have that little peekaboo of the shoe, that would have been a little bit better. The hair is a little too big and too teased out for me for Art Nouveau. The incorporation of the flowers in the hair is nice. It's not amazing, but I'm still gonna give it an okay because I think it is a solid job. Up next is Chloe Clark. This is fantastic. One of the biggest things with Art Nouveau is all of the intricate line work, and you get that in this headpiece with all of these little tiny braids. It's really cool. This silhouette is a very fashion take on Art Nouveau. The color palette all reads really well. Another one that I could very easily see peeled right off of an Art Nouveau print and put up on the runway. It's got that sense of really organic shape and flow to it. And a big part of Art Nouveau, especially in terms of illustrations and print work, is that you want your eye to just constantly be led through detail after detail after detail in a really natural, seamless way. And I think that this look is successful in doing that. This is a sleigh. Up next is Morphe. Now, I've done a couple of art competitions that have had Art Nouveau themes, and every time I've had to design a concept for that, my idea has always been a Tiffany lamp, because I think it is highly underrated, and I think a lot of people don't even think about the furniture design, especially like with lamps and light fixtures. I was very excited when I saw that that's what she was doing. However, I don't like this at all. This silhouette doesn't read as Art Nouveau. It looks really frumpy. Like, it is not flattering. I don't like this makeup at all. The lip is too large for her face. It's got no definition to like separate the fact that she's overdrawn the lips out to here all the way around. If you're going to do a really wide lip like that, in my opinion, you need to go in with like a darker eyeshadow or even a black liner and just redefine where that crease is at the edge of the mouth to make your entire mouth look wider. Otherwise, it just looks like you took lipstick and just went like that, stared it everywhere and called it a day. It's just not successful for me. This headpiece, conceptually, I think is cool to like be this kind of weird lampshade. It's quite literally an umbrella. It's like a vinyl, like a clear umbrella that she painted and made into a hat. And if you're going to do this Tiffany stained glass pattern as a headpiece, you need to actually do a stained glass pattern. This just feels like she just put colors and threw it on there. It doesn't feel intentional. It doesn't feel organic in the same way that Art Nouveau should. I just think it's a miss. The color palette is there. Color palette is definitely within the Art Nouveau realm. This is definitely her weakest look that she's presented so far. Again, I don't like the makeup. I don't like the hair either. The pants and the shirt are just both ill-fitting and they're both drab garments. There's an interesting idea here, or there's a really interesting idea here, but if the best part of your look is the nails, then you don't have a good look on your hands. This is an A. Up next is Gaana. This is gorgeous. She looks like she came out of a music box. There's a few members of my family who have like Art Nouveau vintage antique music boxes, and that's what this is giving me. It's that old color palette. A lot of Art Nouveau stuff uses gold tones throughout consistently, even for skin, for hair. It sort of has this yellow tone wash over the entire look. Her look, like Alvita's, to me really captures the spirit of Art Nouveau in a really good way, while also making it modern simultaneously. So I love this. She looks so expensive. Again, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of these colors in general, and the little pops of color, like the blue stone on the necklace, the eye makeup, the jewelry tones that aren't gold, and the blush to really like warm up her face more. It's gorgeous. I love this silhouette. It's just, this is divine. I have to give this a sleigh. She looks like a fairy queen. Up next is Lulu Velvet. She's another one for me who has so many elements of Art Nouveau. The gold tones, the organic shapes, especially in the bodice, how that wraps around and comes up and is incorporated into the headpiece, and even the eye makeup. It has this really fluid sense about it that I adore. And the gown itself, the skirt, the way it's draped, the way it dances on her, and it has this burlesque spirit. My favorite part of this entire thing though is that the skirt is attached to the arm and wrapped around it. Or so she has the bracelets on one arm for jewelry, but then the skirt creates that similar sort of energy and similar wrap pattern on the other arm, and it goes back into that really sense of organic flow and line work that Art Nouveau is really famous for. I have no faults with this. This is my favorite thing that she's worn so far in the competition. I'm giving her a sleigh. And also, in my opinion, it's bullshit she wasn't in the top this week. Absolute bullshit. Not to harp on Miss Chloe Clark here, I love her aesthetics. She stumbled in the choreography, and there's a shot of her stumbling and a jump cut to Rita's like kind of disgruntled expression in their girl group performance, but yet they praised her if she trips on the runway and they say nothing. But then Lulu is just safe with like commendation for doing a good job. Should have been in the top. But I don't know, that's just me. Just my opinion as a viewer. And up next is Lulu Velvet. I wanted to like this so badly because she's got the elements. She's got all of the parts of a great Art Nouveau moment. She's got the draped element The silhouette of the sleeves, how that attaches at the wrist and comes across the front, that's a very Art Nouveau thing. To me, the hair is a bit of a miss, but the color palette of the hair with the flowers and the jewelry accents works really well. I appreciated the white contact lenses and the direction she took with that. The gradient of this dress is really beautiful. I love that side of it. There's not enough pleating or fabric treatment to really make this not look like a potato sack for all intents and purposes. It just is really boxy on her. She's got no shape. And I know a lot of Art Nouveau silhouette is kind of similar to that, where it's just very straight up and down, but there's a lot of intricacy in the way that those dresses are designed, because all these individual fabric folds are illustrated. And if I was drawing this, I could quite literally just be like, doot, 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 and just color fill and call it a day. That's not Art Nouveau, in my opinion. Like, just from looking at it from that perspective, I don't see how you could draw an Art Nouveau piece with this as the reference and have the fabric remain treated as is. I will say the pop-up element that she had to this that comes up behind her, that takes it into more of an Art Nouveau place. That Art Nouveau window is a very classic silhouette behind a portrait. However, I just did not think that it was taken far enough. Like, she's got all these individual parts that are very Art Nouveau, but they just don't come together in a finished way. For me, I think this is just okay. I'm really starting to get on the Alvita, Gaana, and Lulu Velvet trains because these looks were so good this week. However, there can only be one sleigh of the day. I think I'm gonna give my sleigh of the day to Gaana this week. It was the look that had the biggest impression for me in terms of when it first rounded the corner, and that's usually what I go off of for this. What's the look that upon instantly seeing it, I go, oh, that's the one. This was gorgeous. It was very elegant, very Art Nouveau, but in a fun, interesting, different way. As always, if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring that little notification bell so you can be among the first to know when every new episode of Very Sleigh and Persona 3 Reload and anything else that I do drops here on YouTube. We're getting closer and closer to that 500 subscriber goal, so if you haven't already subscribed, please do, because the vast majority of the people who are watching my content are not subscribed to me, and if you all did, we would have that metric cleared by now. So I would appreciate it if you would do so and help us get there even faster. So that's going to be a wrap on this week's coverage of Drag Race Belgique. Until next time, make sure you go out there and stay kind, stay queer, and be sure that your day is very slay.